They keep asking me for more stories in my life, and I'm going to tell you one more right now. When I graduated from dental school, I applied for I joined the United States Army Air Force.
What year was that?
1955. I graduated from dental school and I immediately went into the Air Force. I got married in June, and in August I took Sandy and we went to Alaska because I was going to be stationed in Anchorage, Alaska, at Elmendorf Air Force Base. And I was going to be there for 2 years working as a dentist. It was an interesting experience taking Sandy, who's never been out of Brooklyn, and taking her to Alaska and trying to make a life for ourselves up in Alaska. Anyway, the dental clinic was especially interesting because there were 40 dentists in the dental clinic. There was the head dentist, the colonel, then a couple majors, and then I was a captain, and there were about 30 of us who were captains. And we did the regular dentistry. And
how many armed forces were there?
There were 10,000 at Elmendorf Air Force Base that I was at, and right next door was Fort Richardson Army Base, which is another 10,000. So there were about 20,000 military in the area, and the families. So there were a lot of people that coming to dental clinics to have dental work done, so we were busy. And there were 40 dentists on Elmendorf Air Force Base. And as a captain, I was one of about 30 or 35 of us who were the lowlives. And then there was the majors and the colonel, etc. And we were given the job of doing fillings on people's teeth. So I'd come at the clinic at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd work for 3 hours, 11 to 12 o'clock, 4 hours, have an hour for lunch. Then go back and do fillings again till 5 o'clock at night. And it was one service guy after another service guy, and sometimes the dependents would come in and I'd have to do the same thing. I was doing basically fillings on teeth for 8 or 9 hours a day. And after a few months of that, I said, this is ridiculous. I'm not doing root canal therapy. I'm not doing dentures. I'm not doing crowns. I'm not doing surgery. All I'm doing is fillings. I'm not going to be able to be a dentist. And I was very upset with that. So I started to look around for ways to get to do other types of dentistry. Lo and behold, there was a major on our base. His name, people should know this name because he was really a really great person. His name was Clifton O. Dummitt, Dummitt. He used to be the dean of Tuskegee University Dental School, and then he went to the military for some reason, I don't know why. And he was a major, and he was a periodontist, and all he did all day long is surgery on the gums around the teeth. And he was black, and he was the only black person in the dental clinic. And he was more or less ostracized. In 1955, nobody had anything to do with him. Huh. So he was working in his room all day, he'd go home, and you never see him anywhere else. And I liked him. The little I had to do passing, I liked him. And one day I started talking to him, and I found out his wife's name is Lois, and he had a couple little girls. And I had made an appointment for him to meet my wife, and we became friendly. So all of a sudden, Clifton Dummitt had a friend, and I had a friend. And I came up with the idea that I'd like to work with him in his office. He had his own room with 2 dental chairs in it, and he was alone all day long except for a nurse that helped him. And all he did was periodontal surgery. So I decided I'd like to get out of doing fillings, and I'd like to work with him. So I talked to him one day, and I suggested that he tell the colonel he needs help. And the colonel, we knew what he would do. He would ask for a volunteer to work with the black guy. And which is exactly what happened. after Cliff went in to see the colonel came out and put a notice on the bulletin board. He wants a volunteer to work with Dr. Dummitt. The notice wasn't on the board 2 minutes, and I took it off. Went into the colonel and I volunteered. And I went in. The colonel was glad to have the Jewish guy go in with the black guy. So I went in with Dr. Dummitt. And for the next 6 months, he stood over me every day as I did surgery in the mouth, which was great. I became a really decent surgeon, working on the gums and the tissues around the teeth. Until somebody got wise and said, that's not fair, he's doing all that dentistry. Other people wanted to do it. So they made it a rotating 1 month thing where you go in and work with Dr. Dummitt for 1 month. But that was a big turning point in my life.
Cool.
It was cool. It really was a good thing. After that, I became the base and the root canal therapist because the guy was rotating. I learned how to work the system a little bit. When I was on duty one night, I went into the colonel's office and I looked at all the specialists and I wanted to see who was rotating out of the base next. And I found out that the base endodontist was leaving in another month. So they needed a new endodontist to do root canal work. And unbeknownst to the colonel, I knew that. I went in and I told the colonel I'd like to do root canal work. Is there any chance I could do it? He said, absolutely not. We have an endodontist. He didn't realize at the moment that he was rotating out either. So that when he rotated out, the colonel came over to me and they told me to do the root canal work. So I got to do another specialty for the next year and a half.
You were a step ahead.
Instead of doing fillings for 2 years, I really got a good education in the military.
Being proactive.
It was a good story. It was really made it very pleasant. And Cliff Dummitt and Sandy and I remained friends forever. He went to California eventually, and he was remember the Watts riots in California. He was the commissioner looking into the Watts riots in California. If you look it up, you'll see he was really an influential person for his whole life. Clifton O. Dummitt.
Good story.